Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2:50, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Keisha, would you mind calling the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hayno?
Here.
Ms. Hayno's here. Ms. Gonzalez? Ms. Hayden? Ms. Nguyen? Ms. Beyonce? Ms. Stewart? Mr. Taylor?
Right here.
Mr. Taylor's here. Ms. Zoo?
Here.
Ms. Zoo's here. And Ms. Polo.
Here.
Ms. Polo is here. You have four. You have one.
Thank you, Rakisha. Before we get started, I just want to remind you all of a few rules. For committee members and members of the public attending in person, please raise your hand to speak and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. To help the meeting run smoothly, please keep side conversations to a minimum and comments related to the topic we are discussing. For those committee members who are attending virtually, remember you must be on camera and have your first and last name shown to be counted toward the quorum. Please keep microphones muted unless called upon by the chair. Electronically raise your hand to request to speak and wait to be called on by the chair. For attendees, electronically raise your hand to request to speak. Once recognized by the chair, your microphone will be turned on. After speaking, the microphone will be returned to mute. Also, the Q&A is to only be used by those needing an ADA accommodation to participate in the meeting. Public comments will not be accepted via the Q&A except for those individuals who requested the accommodation. As for order, committee meetings, committee members in person and virtually will be allowed to speak first. Public members in person will then be called on, followed by public participating virtually who have their hands raised. Comments and Q&A will be addressed last. As with all hybrid meetings, it can be difficult to keep track of those wanting to speak in person and virtually. Please be patient. All comments and questions from the public may be subjected to 2 minutes at the discretion of the chair, so keep that in mind. Depending on time constraints, we may also limit comments to once per issue. Also, comments about a person's character will not be allowed. Finally, members of the public will have the opportunity to provide public comment before each vote and during the designated public comment periods. The chair may also use their discretion to determine if comments will be accepted outside of those times. Okay, so everyone should have reviewed the July meeting summary, which was attached to the agenda. You received via email. There's also a copy in your committee packet. I need a motion to approve the July meeting summary.
Motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Taylor. We need a second. We have a second from Ms. Hayno. Is there any discussion? Any public comments? Okay, we'll now do a roll call vote. A vote yes is to approve the minutes. Am I in the right place? It's approve the agenda, but it should be approve the minutes. A vote no is to not approve. So Rakisha, please do a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Jill Hayno? Yes. Ms. Hayno, yes. Ms. Hayden? Ms. Nguyen? Mr. Beyonce? Ms. Stewart? Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Ms. Zoo?
Yes.
And Ms. Polo.
Yes.
It's 4 yeses.
Okay, thank you, Rakisha. Okay, next we're moving to the Office of Behavioral Health. Let's see, Dr. Savicki is online, is here on the screen. Dr. Savicki, you want to present your report?
Yeah, I'm ready. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And so I think we'll start with the year-end report. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. This is not the year-end report.
I put the wrong one, because it said.
There we go. Great. Okay, so this is the year-end report for everything expended on these funds for the fiscal year that ended on June 30th. Y'all have already seen the Q4 report, which is roughly similar to this, but this doing the year-end report obviously allows the LGs to account for any last invoices that weren't able to be paid by the time that that Q4 report is due to the council. So you'll see on the CCR report that with one exception, all of the LGEs did meet the performance standard that we have set. It's the performance standard is expending 95% of the funding to families who apply for that assistance, and all of the LGs have met that except for Acadiana. We did go ahead and we typically wait until the year-end report comes in to speak to the LGs about corrective action plans. In this case, Acadiana let us know at the time of their Q4 report that it was fully accurate, that they weren't able to expend all of the funds by the end of June 30th. So we went ahead and worked with them on submitting a corrective action plan, and have already received that and reviewed that. So that's already in place. And one of the ways that we monitor progress in correcting that is that we looked at the next quarter. And so you'll see when we get there, Acadiana has actually is already 32% expended, and so they're already sort of more than on track for this year. So they're doing well with their corrective action plan so far. Just wanted to share that information. So this is on the consumer care resources side. Any questions on this before we move on to flexible family fund?
I don't see any in the room.
All right, good to move on to the flexible family fund. All right. So this again is the year-end report. What we expect to see is, almost all of the funds expended. We expect to see every quarter, we expect to see at least 90% of the slots being filled. All of the all the LGs are in compliance with the exception of one. It is for Q4 of fiscal year 25. North Louisiana was under the amount of slots. They had 19 out of 22 slots filled, which is actually quite a bit improved from their Q4 report. They were able to kind of come and do a lot of work on their waiting list and get a lot of folks into slots even by the end of by the actual end of the fiscal year. But again, we were already aware that they were below where they needed to be on filling the slots, and so we did already request a corrective action plan from them, and have already received and reviewed that earlier this month. And again, how we monitor progress on those corrective action plans is we look at the next quarter report, which again, spoiler alert, you'll see later that they have similarly made progress and have quite a bit more of their, I think they have more of their slots filled, as you'll see in the Q1 report. That's all I have for the Flexible Family Fund report. Any questions on that?
I don't see any questions in the room.
All right, we can move on to the supported living tab if folks are ready. And this one is pretty straightforward. Everybody had expended all of 100% of their funding for the LGEs who administer this part of the program. Any questions on that?
No questions in the room.
All right, whenever the group is ready, we could move on to the quarter one.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Subcommittee.
Okay, so this is our first report for fiscal year 26, and we're on the CCR. Something we always like to do is take a look at what the LG allocations are for the new fiscal year and sort of see if there's any significant changes that have been made between one fiscal year and the next. They're largely the same if you kind of compare and contrast your year-end reports and your quarter one reports for fiscal year 26. They're largely the same. A couple LGs have made some small shifts. MCAL, for instance, had to end last year with a pretty reduced amount, given some funding changes that they experienced throughout the year. They've been able to bump it back up a little bit for this year. Jefferson Parish last year had a pretty big increase, based, I think, on some temporary funding. So they've reduced a little bit, but they still have a pretty generous allocation. Any questions on that kind of initial allocation?
There is a hand raised, I'm not certain where the question is, but it's Miss Melinda Elliott.
Melinda? Give us a moment.
It's not letting me. Okay, she should be good.
Melinda, if you can ask your question.
Hi, y'all are going a bit fast for me. Could you all go to the chart before this one?
Or are you talking about for the year end, on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
supported living?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Give us a moment to make
Oh,
sure.
now I messed up your stuff. I'm sorry.
Aha.
Can you go down a little bit to the explanation? So in the explanation for SCL HSA, what is that?
South Central?
South Central Human Service Authority. It says that they made payments to peer specialists for services performed. Is that like paychecks?
We'd have to ask the LG. They don't give that level of detail to us, but we'd have to ask that question.
So is that an allowed expense for this area?
So
And
allowed,
then they says
sorry.
the same thing in Calcasieu area Human Service District peer support staff salaries, or not the same thing, but something similar. And I didn't think that this money was supposed to go for salaries. I thought it was for people, for well, consumers.
So we can look at so I hadn't noted that salaries reference before. We can ask. It's fairly broad. The state level policy around allowed uses is fairly broad, to be honest. It really is speaking to providing supports to consumers where those supports do not have another payment source. But we can we can ask that question of the LGs.
Okay. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, please, thank you.
Let me ask you, said it was South Central, and what was the other one?
One of them was Calcasieu area. I'm sort of
Oh.
guessing, but it's the one right above it. And that one specifically says peer support staff salaries. And then the one underneath says payments to peer support specialists for services performed, which would lead me to believe it was salaries too. Now, I haven't examined all the others, but that's the two that I saw.
Okay. And Dr. Siddiqui, in regards to that, would that mean that like these are Medicaid funded services? And you said something about there was no other funding source, like it could be paid if there was no other funding source.
So I'm just referencing the guidance in the policy, which is that if you know if a service or is reimbursable by a different funding source, then that funding source should be used instead of these dollars. But I don't know specifically what the LG is referencing there. So we'd have to ask the question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question, Melinda.
Yes, ma'am.
We have another question from Mr. Taylor.
Can she go back to the physical ed report?
The which one?
The physical ed. Physical ed report.
Which one? Consumer care resources, flexible family funds, or supported
Consumer care resources.
consumer care resources?
The first quarter, and then you're gonna,
That was the quarter one or the final report.
What's your question, Mr. Taylor?
Can she explain the definition she got for the ones in the red? Down at the bottom?
Are you talking about like Imperial Calcasieu ICHSA has in red $10,582?
Yes.
That's what you're asking about? Dr. Savicki, can you answer that?
Yeah, you're referring to the entry in the budget changes since the start of the state fiscal year in that column?
Yes.
Yeah, that column is for LGs to report on if they had to make any changes in the middle of the fiscal year to the amount of money that they have to budget for this program. And MCAL reported a while ago, it might have been in quarter 2 or quarter 3, I don't remember exactly. They had reported that they needed to reduce their initial allocation. In fact, I can tell you it was quarter 3 because it was in response to a federal cut to a grant program that they were using to kind of beef up the amount of money that they could allocate to this. They were using some federal dollars, which then got cut in March. And so then they reported on their quarter 3 report that they had to reduce their kind of overall budget for this program because the money was no longer available for them to use.
And so they had to, that mean they had to give it back. That's what I'm trying to.
They just weren't allowed to use it anymore. So they had to remove it from their budget and they couldn't then use it in the future for the rest of the fiscal year to provide to citizens.
Question. Okay. I think you finished with your question, Mr. Taylor?
Yes,
Okay.
could she, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Could she slow down just maybe?
Okay. Were you able to hear that, Dr. Spink? Just asked.
Yeah, just let me know when to pause.
Okay. Or that's on me, Eric. I'll try and slow it down. Okay. So Dr. Savicki, if you could pick back up, where were we? We're just starting on the first quarter, I think. Correct.
Does anyone want to ask any questions on this one so far? So far, I was just speaking to the total budget allocation that the LGs have budgeted for this current fiscal year. Y'all just let me know when you want to move ahead. I don't want to move too fast.
Go ahead, Dr. Spicky.
So keep going.
Yes, ma'am.
So actually, could you stay on the consumer care resources? Just wanted to note that, what we look at in quarter 1 is, certainly what we'd like to see is about 25% expended. But we also know that historically LGs use these funds in different ways. So for instance, I think every quarter 1 that I've seen this report for years, capital area typically does not spend any of the funding in that first quarter. They oftentimes use a different funding source to address needs early on in the fiscal year. And then they use all of these funds really towards the end of the fiscal year. So it's pretty typical to see capital area with a 0% expended at this time of the year. But you'll see a lot of the other LGEs have, used a fair amount of it already. I just wanted to call your attention to Acadiana, that they're at 32%. That's what I was mentioning before, that they didn't get to the 95% expended by the end of last fiscal year. And so they are working a corrective action plan to work on linking these funds to families a little more efficiently. And that 32% tells us that they're doing pretty well so far, that they seem to be already above where we would expect them to be by this time of the year. That's all I had to say about this particular report on the consumer care resources side, but let me know, obviously, if there's questions.
I don't see any questions in the room or on Zoom. So you can move on.
All right, so the flexible family funds, what we look for is LGs having their budgeted slots, having them filled with families who are receiving this assistance. As you can see, almost all of the LGEs are doing pretty well. There's a couple that have maybe one slot that's not filled, that they're working through their waiting list to connect a new family into that slot. The one exception, one LGE that is struggling a bit is Florida Parishes. They only have 20 of their 26 slots filled by the end of this quarter. So we did go ahead and reach out to them. I think maybe just last week when we were finalizing reports. And we did request a corrective action plan from them to, speak to how they're going to resolve that and how they're going to make sure that they are able to efficiently move more families into those slots. So we'll hopefully have an update for the council next quarter on what their corrective action is and how they're doing so far.
Any questions on the first quarter flexible family fund for Office of Behavioral Health? I don't see any questions. We move on.
All right, similarly for supported living for quarter 1, if LGs use this funding sort of the same way throughout the year, then we'd see about 25% expended for quarter 1, but they do all use this funding in different ways. And so, for instance, you'll see South Central has already spent quite a bit of it. But this is their reporting right now about where they're at with expenditure of the funds.
Do you have any
So just,
other-
yeah, just let me know if there's questions on this.
Let's go ahead to Elliot with the hand raised.
Okay, Ms. Elliott?
Again, the little bit that I can see talks about what appears to be staff wages. And maybe it's just about the way that it's worded, but I don't want people to get into the mindset or the feeling that it's supposed to pay for staff. It's supposed to pay for services for a person. That's in SCLHSA. And is it again in the one above it? Yeah. I don't know. But where it says the peer support specialist for services performed.
That's South Central, that's Region 3.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Were you looking for an answer from me?
No, I just said that that's South Central you're referring to, which is Region 3.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, we'll ask that same question. It is noting that it's payment for services performed, which is different from salaries, but we'll ask for clarification.
Okay, so then that kind of brings to mind what does services performed mean?
So peer support services is a defined service. It's a peer support specialist who, there's a OBH approved training program for people with lived experience, kind of dealing with and having their own mental illness and substance use struggles, who have lived experience with that and have become peer support specialists to then, leverage that lived experience to be really supportive and provide help and peer counseling to other folks who are in recovery. So that's the service, I think, that's being referenced there, is that peer support service.
Yeah, I understand what peer support is, but that's still a person. And
It's
this
paying
isn't-
for the service that they're performing, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
maybe there's a better way to word that.
I'm thinking, as I'm thinking through this, this could include people who have no other like medical coverage, whether whatever that coverage is, to cover this necessary service. So therefore, it's being paid for through this fund, which could be similar to, like our flexible family funds. I'm saying it right? Yeah, and IIFF funds through OCDD, which sometimes that'll pay for a service such as a personal care attendant if a person doesn't have like a waiver. So it's technically for a person, but they're providing a service that that person can't get or maybe don't have access to through a waiver or through Medicaid. So it's kind of like filling the gap for people who don't fall into under Medicaid service or a healthcare plan that would pay for it. Am I thinking about that in the right way? Is it similar?
I think, sorry, I don't know if you're asking me that question, but I think that's a really good analogy. Yeah, services are delivered by people, but and paying for a service is an allowable use of these funds. So yes, this could be a situation like on the OCDD side, if a client does not have the right health insurance coverage or doesn't have another source of payment for someone to provide, for instance, personal care attendant services, then this funding could be used to pay for that service. And so on the behavioral health side, this may be a similar situation where there's not a current funding source for that particular client to receive this service. And so these funds are being used to pay for that service.
And so I think just getting that clarity from them, that'll be great to get that at the next meeting, so thank you.
Sure.
Do you have, Ms. Elliott, do you have another question?
No, we good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Anyone else have a question in regards to OVH, the first quarter report? No one in the room, no one online. We don't see any other questions, so, thank you, Dr. Subcommittee.
All right, thank you.
Now we're moving on to the Office for Citizens, report. Tanya Murphy with OCDD is here to report out on the program. Tanya, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Tanya. I'm going to start with the fiscal year 25 final end of year expenditures for the individual and family support program. This report in front of you shows all 10 LGEs, how much money they budgeted towards this program, how much they've spent, and this report includes all of the invoices for the entire year. And similar to what Dr. Siddiqui said, we would like, the goal is for every LGE to spend at least 95%. And as you can see in the column that says percent expended year to date, every LGE spent at least 95% or more of their budget for the individual and family support program. So they met their goal. No corrective action plans were required. Any questions about the individual and family support program with OCDD?
I don't see any questions.
Flexible Family Fund provides $258 a month to families who have children in their home with severe disabilities. I expect the LGs to spend 100% of the Flexible Family Fund, just because you know exactly how much per month and you know how many slots you have, and you just gotta be real diligent about keeping them filled. Almost all the LGBs did 99 to 100. So they met their goal for this program. Does anybody have any questions about Flexible Family Fund?
I don't have a question about flexible family funds, but I'm looking at the IFS, the individual family support, and the flexible family support. And it seems like through those two programs, over $13.8 million was expended. Is that correct? 8.3 for IFS, or?
Yeah, the Act 73 report on the other side kind of has the total for both programs combined, and it's $13,749,000.
Okay. Okay, so, any other questions for the flexible family funds? Okay, so we can move over to Act 73.
Act 73, this is where we monitor all 10 of the LGEs to make sure that they budget 9% of their state general fund towards these two programs, and that they then spend that 9%. And since we require that they spend 95% of the amount that they put towards these programs, it kind of ensures that this money gets spent. So some of the LGEs do put more than 9% towards it. If you look at the percent expended of the 9%, 98 is the lowest. We had like Northwest that spent like 161% of their 9%. all the LGEs met the Act 73 compliance requirement for fiscal year 25. Any questions about Act 73? All right, so now I don't know these reports, but let's talk about the individual and family support requests and expenditure data. This is done once a year after we have the full expenditure report and we have all of the invoices and all of what's been spent. We do these reports, Brenton, I don't know, MD, I don't know, well, just you, Brenton. The DD count, I submit this information to the DD council, and then they put it together for you guys to look at. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of information. But I mean, we can go through it if you guys have had an opportunity to look at it, and if you have any questions. The first page just talks about the number of requests that were received by each LGE, what priority level they were, and then what was the outcome of all of them.
I will say just more clarity, this report, it's gotten to be this large and this much information, y'all are always asking for things, and so it just becomes this really massive report. I don't know how complicated it is for OCD to give it to us. It's not all that complicated to put together. But I guess we would also want to know, is this information helpful for you? Because I know some years there is no discussion about it, and then some years it's on your agenda for the next 3 meetings. And so, and a lot of members on this committee, the ones that showed up, thank you, are relatively newer, so I guess just deciding if this information is helpful.
I'm getting my buckets. I'm getting my buckets there.
So if you look at the first page and then the one on the back, it just talks about the priority levels, like what priority request was and what was the outcome. But then if you go on to the next one where it really breaks it down as to what was purchased, if you wanted to look at this and find out for each LGE, like Metropolitan spent, I'm trying to keep what I want.
So I guess I can explain that second page, I guess. So the second page of that report is gonna just give you basically the totals from all of your LGDs, all your local governing entities. Also known as human services, districts and authorities, we gotta give them 1,000 things. But that's just all of them, all their totals for all their contracts are on that second page. And then on the back or the third page, it's just the totals all together, just all 10 of them in one snapshot. And then your subsequent pages from there are gonna break out each individual LGE, because I know sometimes y'all like to know how your LGE is doing in your region. So that's kind of how it is. That's how the report is set up. It just gives you those priorities in the first 2 pages. Your page 2 and 3 is just gonna be the totals of everyone all together. And then after that, it's gonna break down into every individual LGE.
I always ask a question. I'm sorry, Pedro. Get a question?
Go on, then I don't know. Okay, so if I look on the back of page 1, it says the devices clothing. It says 213 contract. But I know 5 plus 8 plus 4 plus 32 plus 37 doesn't equal 213.
I'm not sure I understood your question. Did you, my ears are stopped.
They got me,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
they for nothing more.
I got scared because I thought this was gonna involve math.
It involved that.
Oh, no.
I can't feel my heart.
Exactly.
Okay, and so we have a couple options. We can give Tanya a hard time at the last meeting, or we can say it for Herman, for later meetings, so.
Save it for Herman.
Give us a chance.
I say we give them both a hard time, so that's the hard question.
There's no question I cannot answer.
You'll answer all of them.
I'm ready.
Might not be right, but she'll answer.
Fact check it. Bye.
So, I always, each year, I look at our personal care attendants, PCA, and vocational. And I always, any of in those items where it seems like we're paying a lot, like just comparatively, I ask, like, for instance, personal care attendants, if there, it seems like it's disproportionately more in one region, I'll ask, like, why aren't these people receiving a Medicaid paid personal care attendant service? So either long-term personal care or a waiver. So like I look at Metropolitan, it seems pretty high, 659,000. In Central Louisiana, 338,000, in Northeast Delta, 446. All of those are like the three highest. So I'm wondering, like, why is this being paid, and why are these people are connected to waivers or to other Medicaid services?
Well, the first answer is that some of these individuals can't qualify for Medicaid. So then they wouldn't be able to access a waiver. And that's why we're paying PCA out of the state funded services, some of those.
So that would be people who, all are people who qualify for government disability services, but financially they don't qualify?
Right.
I mean, I find that to be suspect that there's that many in North.
No, I'm definitely not saying all of them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying part of it is those individuals. Part of it is individuals who, their need is short-lived. Like, they don't need it for the rest, they just need it right now because mom's having surgery or whatever. So they don't get a sunscreen of a before because their need is not gonna be ongoing. So that's a bunch of money for a short amount of time. And then also there's people, what other situations where somebody wouldn't have a waiver, but they need state funded PCA. That's the other one I was thinking, yeah. While they're waiting for certification of a waiver, which can take months and months, we're funding it with IFS. That's just 3 examples of why, but it is the top thing that people want generally.
Some waivers are capped and.
Don't say the Herman, it's all.
Oh. Let's go.
You know, we'll say that. It scared me so much.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, basically, it was like, some of the services, some of the waiver services are capped, and the team and the family need a little more services. So then IFS may supplement some of those to help meet the needs of the individual if the services they're receiving from what other resource, whether it's waiver or whatever, not meeting their needs, sometimes IFS will chip in to fill that gap.
Okay. And I get that, but that all of those situations would apply in every region. So I'm just wondering if, and I mean, I'm not going to dig that deep into it, but like, is there some practices that's going on in the regions that say these really make sure people don't have gaps, so therefore they're paying more, or they're not getting connected as quickly in those regions as they are in other regions? So like, just those are my. my other thoughts.
I'm
about
also
it.
picturing the amount of money per hour that some places are paying as compared to others. Some LGs are gonna contract with provider agencies and pay top dollar. Some are gonna get family members. Yeah, everybody, they decide what they're gonna pay on their own, and, you know,
Self-directed.
I know that one LGE spends extra to make sure that the direct service workers are getting specific training before they provide that service, and then they pay them top dollar, so it fluctuates.
Okay. Ms. Elliott has her.
And you know, I mean, this is another thing that gets said, so it sounds like a lot of money goes back into it, it's like $3,800 per person. That's not, people that provide PCA, that's maybe a week's worth.
Right.
24-hour care, even at our current rate, so it sounds like a lot when you roll it up, but per person, it's like $3,000 for this program per person.
Okay.
So does that make it a little more palatable? And that talks to Tanya's point about the intermittent nature of it. It's just like spot requests or, you know, like short-term PTE maybe. That's kind of why it's like that. So factoring in the number of people who receive it, kind of makes it, in comparison to the average cost of a rate, which is almost $50,000. So, so it is less. Does that help? I think they'll tell you out.
I'd like to tell her.
Oh, we have, Ms. Karen?
I just wonder the number for the budget was much higher than expanded, right? So you just, I'm not sure, I just saw the table looks the budget like the individual and the family support. The total current budget is 8 million, right? Under the total expanded year to date is around 1.6 million. So total expanded percentage is around 20.
Which report are you looking at?
It's a statement number, just 26, quarter one.
He's going back to the,
Oh, yeah, we haven't gotten to that report yet with the fiscal year 26.
Oh, we're looking at the one
that's
that's-
the quarter, I understand it right now, yeah,
that's a blue.
right, okay. I thought that's the right one.
That's okay.
Same question when I get there, but I'm like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah, it's the one that's stapled together, the blue paper. So. Melinda Elliott has a question?
It's not exactly a question, but I heard somebody ask about the value of this chunk of reports, and I find it very valuable to see the spread and how, details about how each LGE, and I know I'm only the public, but that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Melinda.
I'd like it.
I do have a question. Well, I have a statement and I have a question. So the statement would be, I know we have looked at vocational employment sports every year. And I just want to point out that those, the amount of contracts were reduced by 12% and 22% in spending. So we have been concerned with the amount spent in that area. It looks like some effort somewhere is being made to try to not rely on IFS so much for those vocational sports. So kudos to the breakdown. I didn't go through it to see LGE by LGE where that reduction might be happening. But I want to point that out. But my question was the other category. So when we first started doing this report, how many years ago, everything was other, and Tanya did a really good job working with everyone and doing trainings to not utilize other as much. What I'm concerned about is we're going back and using other for everything because we have a 23% increase, almost a quarter increase in contracts being other, and almost a 50% increase in spending in other. And other, to me, is not very transparent. You have so many categories here. I can't imagine outside of a few things that might be considered other. So I don't know if this has to do with turnover or laziness or whatever the issue was all those years ago, but that could be, I guess, on our radar now. To whatever support the LGs need to stop utilizing that other category when it's not actually other. Because if I'm not mistaken, when we first started doing this, we went back and looked at a lot of those contracts, and so many of them fell within these other categories, and it wasn't other. And the purpose of this report is to really show the work that these LGs are doing, the needs of the community, and classify it as other. We don't know what that means. We don't know where the need is. We don't understand. And it's not saying that, oh, you're trying to hide something. It's just that we can't know what the need is if you're not putting it in the right category. You know, for instance, I see a decrease in the amount of contracts and spending for incontinence supplies, which could be tied to that now being through the waiver. But I don't know that. That could also be because you're putting another now. And so it's gonna skew all these other numbers. And so I don't feel like the fact that that has increased so much, I don't feel like this is a very accurate report anymore. They're gonna just sort of throw things in that other category.
I think that's certainly something that Herman can mention, I just went around to all the LGs next fiscal year, is to please remember, I did tell them all to stop using other, and it did go down when I first started telling them, and there has been turnover.
Yeah.
But I do remember very specifically talking to one LGE about using other too much this last fiscal year, and that person told me that when you have one person that requests several items, and they don't know which category to put it in, they'll put it in other, because they don't want to put it in one of the designated ones, because it's not only that. And I was like, enter more than one in there then,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever, but.
And I can even see if those situations, or I don't expect the other to be at zero. I
Exactly.
would imagine something is gonna be out there that may not fit, or to account for staff or something like that. But not 50%.
Acadian and Lawrence.
Yeah, and Northeast Delta was the one that said they put a lot of stuff in other.
See, I wouldn't put
Acadiana hasn't had turnover, so.
Yeah, and in Indiana, I don't know, one don't. I mean, do we have people from those two LGs on the line?
It's running about 10% across the board for
Those are outliers.
Yeah, so those two LGs.
And I was just
we
looking
make
at
sure.
the total totals, I didn't know any details, but I'm glad y'all pointed that out.
Why, northeast Delta.
In the Northeast, most of their, more contracts are listed as other than.
That's the most, the highest number. is in other.
Acadian.
Yeah. 245. That's right, Herman.
I mean, and I'm concerned about center-based respite also for Acadiana. That seems like a lot, maybe they had a situation, or they could be doing something creative, and
Not that many respite centers in Louisiana, so if you see a high number, I bet it's because they're one of the only in town.
There was only 2 contracts for Indiana in a center-based respite. There was only 2, and that is accurate or 4 contracts, sorry. That amount of money sounds,
but there were 7.
no, you're right. I'm looking at the one but 7. That is how much it costs to have somebody housed in a center-based respite.
And I'm drawing a blank, I'm on the Acadiana board, and I remember Troy telling us a story, it was actually a success story about a respite and how now someone is living independently, and it was a really great success story that he shared in our meeting. And so this doesn't necessarily mean that it's negative, it may be that they're using it, and they're using it pretty, it's only 7 people, so it could be that they're really targeted use of it. That would be a good thing for us to know, it is kind of an outlier in regards to spending, but I think.
Oh, you mean from Acadiana as compared to others? Like what you were saying, there are no center-based
Yeah,
respite
there's-
places in other LGs.
Yeah.
Like
not many.
there's only a few in the whole state.
So other areas can't use center-based respite that's in another region?
Yeah.
I mean, they do, they send somebody to the other one, that's true, but that, it's like not an option, like.
They don't even think about it.
Right, because they're not gonna send somebody
Okay,
all the way.
that's a good,
I'm thinking too far.
yeah.
There used to be several in all regions.
Yeah.
But because it was so expensive to keep the house, you gotta keep the house going whether or not you have someone in that house or not. And so there's no like money like there is for nursing homes, like bed money, there's no money like that.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that house and the staff going, even if the house is empty.
Okay.
Yeah. It's terrible because it's a really great service for families who need a break and who need,
What we're seeing now is that folks who go to the base respite, they're gonna leave. So that's another issue that we're talking to. You're right, we do need more, we really need mindful, like, people trying to hold up. We got a couple of that's been requesting stay for like 6, 7, 8 months.
yeah.
Partly because of housing, but partly because they like it there.
At one time, we had a lot of center-based residents, but we really implemented home services. Most of the provided center-based residents, the individuals that they were providing services preferred to be home. So they didn't have enough clients or individuals who wanted that service in order to make it feasible then to stay open and pay all the bill for a facility.
Yeah.
When checking with Jefferson, there's jumping up or 2, like.
Center-based or other?
Oh, numbers, sorry.
Means better on the other.
Yeah,
Incorporate.
checking that with the code.
Nicole's got her hand.
That she told.
Oh, hey, let's go, Nicole.
Okay, so we had a question, Mr. Taylor, and then we'll go to Nicole, Grady.
Madam Chair, not putting on my, but some of the rescue centers is based as safer than the home. Some of the people run to the rescue centers to be protected, from family members.
Yeah.
So I understand what he's saying, some of them don't wanna leave because they scared of speaking of what's around them. So they got more security outside and then they got inside. Now, do they need to watch the rescue centers more? Yes, they do. But at the same time, we got too many loopholes. I'm just saying with the rescue centers, well, I'm gonna die over here and then I'm gonna cross the T down here, then I'm gonna hide it here. But it's more, some of them is more protected in the centers because at home, people is not.
Those, I'm gonna let Nicole jump in, but those conversations we have at 2 levels, right? At the school coordination level and at the LGBT level as well, because there are alternatives that we can talk about, there are options that we can talk about. If you live in an unsafe environment, there's resources that's available through some of the waivers that we can probably tap. The shared living, like you're open to a roommate life, your social security check that cover housing in a safe area, but you can find 2 or 3 together. You go, you know what I'm saying? You can live in a safer area, so those options can be discussed. I know a lot of folks try to steer away from that because whatever stigma that's developing, but if you're an independent person and you don't mind having a roommate, you know what I'm saying? Like, talk to your LGEs, talk to school coordination agencies. There's more, to your point, there's a ton of people that sit in places they don't want to be because it's safer than the alternative. You know, so I agree with you.
As well.
Many times it's trying to find a safe place for them to go to. They don't want to go back to their families, if they're adults, they need an apartment to go to, then there's a whole other process, it takes a long time to find that other place. That's another reason why they would stay in the respite center longer than we think they should be there. There's many reasons that happen, but your point is very well taken.
So, and another thing I'm seeing, some of the rescue centers try to hold you for 30 days because they feel like if they hold you for 30 days, that means they got you locked in. But so they can get their funding, because if they hold you for that 30 days, then they got you locked into that bed so they can keep getting that funding.
No, that's not, it doesn't work like that.
Doesn't it?
No.
Well, the unlicensed, some of the unlicensed group homes may wanna do that because they get your check.
Yeah, those aren't the same
But ours
ones
aren't like
run
that.
through
Okay,
OCD.
well,
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong one, but I know
Yeah, that does exist though.
that is like that, cause
Yeah, you're right.
There's some in
There's
those-
one, those things they call group homes that's not licensed, that people, and they just pretty much take your check.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Or
sure.
you get $30 a month and then sit you in line and get a cigarette and
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
you go sit in a room with a bunch of machines and you're not supposed to have that. But they wanna hold you for that time so the check can be turned over.
Yeah, yeah. Those unlicensed homes have been an issue for a while.
Okay, we have Jill and then, Nicole.
Well, I think Ms. Green can address this issue, so, she can go first.
Okay, Nicole, Green.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in regards to the other category, I did call our database coordinator while you all were having the conversation to see what he has put in the other category. And he's gonna send me a complete list, but he told me some things off the top of his head that I think will answer some of the questions in regards to how many people we've put in that category. So we spend dollars, or we help families purchase school uniforms. We also help families, or whether it's an adult or a child, engage in what we call summer enrichment. And that can cover summer camps, regular summer camps, therapeutic summer camps for children during the summer. And he puts that information in the other category. We can decide if another category would better suit those things, but those are one of the major things that we do that falls into that other category.
The school uniform.
And there are some other things too. I just don't have the complete list in front of me, but I do have him working on that.
Well, that contributes to the, I guess, for
It does.
so, okay, so.
Yeah, the assistive devices / clothing might be more appropriate for school uniforms.
Yeah. Yeah.
The summer thing, there isn't a place for it.
So how do you,
Maybe like an educational services or?
I would imagine all LGEs would probably at some point in time spend money on, let's say, school uniforms or summer camps or whatever. What's the process, or how does it work if you notice, let's say we go through the others and we notice a trend, everyone is hitting this particular category. Let's process adding a different category into this.
Send an email to David Starnes and say, hey, Dave, add a category, and then he does.
Cause I'm just wondering, like, maybe summer camp, I know a lot of LGEs spend money on summer camps, so maybe that needs some sort of category of its own.
Yep, it's a drop down and he can just add to it, we just have to ask him to do it.
Just to help them more, because I'm sure they would also wanna have a better picture, well, they might, I don't know what they have here with all that stuff, but certainly would be helpful.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Okay, any other questions about this, what do we call this report? Is it right now the IFS? I guess it's the detailed annual report.
End of year IFS reports, I guess.
Yes. Detail.
IFS request by fiscal year is what's called in the database.
Jill.
So this is like a big, big question because I'm still don't speak gibberish, but where are you getting these category of services from?
In the database, we have a place where where all the LGEs enter the information about their individual and family support contracts.
Ow.
And so there's like a drop down, it's like a database situation.
So this is services based on individual family. So, okay, perfect.
Yeah, and we created the list based on past experiences of what we spend money on. And so we just got everybody's feedback as to what do you spend money on, and then we just create the list.
Okay, so we want the LGEs spend money on, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions about this report? Oh, Karen?
I just have a question, for the contracts, so there's many kind of, categories, so how you decide the contracts, so just how you get that, the number?
So each LGE has a certain people in their area that ask for services, and whatever the families need, and oh, that's what they need, so that's what we do a contract for, and that's what we put in the database that we spend the money on. It's like literally what the money is spent on for each family.
So it all depends on the needs. Right?
Yes, yes.
Because I noticed looks a lot, related to the center based of income based respite. And some counseling or psychology looks almost zero for all the 10 districts. So I'm just curious why they zero, almost all zero.
Right. I mean, if if nobody asks for it, then it's
It
not.
just depends on how many the request of that kind of.
Yes. Exactly.
Any other questions? Okay, we're running short on time, so we'll move on. Okay, if I know what's our next report, is that the first quarter? Okay.
I did want to just throw something out there before I start with the fiscal year 26 quarter one, that I think it was back in 2017, 2019 or so, that the individual and family support rule was changed. And they put a specific statement in there that the IFS funds could not be spent on salaries for LGE staff. And I don't know if maybe that is something that Melinda is thinking about, like you can't do salaries, and they can't spend this money on LGE staff.
Okay.
So it just popped into my head, like, that it was flagged about the salaries, but anyways, that might help. So, all right, I'm gonna go to fiscal year 26 quarter one expenditures. We're back to talking about the fact that we don't have all the invoices yet, quarter one, when this report comes in. And so although we would like for everybody to be at 25%, they generally are not, because they're missing almost a month of invoices yet. And I do like to talk about quarter one right after I talked about final year, because the final year you saw they did spend everything, even though we're looking at some of these, they've only spent 15% or 17%, but I have no worries when I see those in quarter one. I know that they will spend all the money. If there's any, the LGEs always provide comments in that bottom part that says, if you think their expenditures are a little low, to put a reason why, and so they have. Most of them say because we don't have all the billing yet. Any questions about quarter one individual and family support?
Any questions?
Flexible Family Fund is all pretty much across the board at 25% from all the LGEs. Everybody looks to be on on track for quarter one. Any FFF questions?
No questions?
So then on the next page, Act 73, we get all of the total state general fund amounts that are new and different for fiscal year 26. Then I say we do the math, but actually just Excel does the math for me, thank God, as to how much is 9% of that. And then I add together what the LGs have budgeted towards and make sure that they're all budgeting at least 9%. And scanning through, nobody caught my eye, so I'm thinking everybody's up where they're supposed to be or beyond. Yep, everybody has budgeted 9%, so we're good there. And then, statewide, we're at about 24% spent so far, which is right where we should be for quarter one.
Any questions for Tanya? On any of the reports? Tanya, thank you so much for serving on this committee and OCD, and we're gonna miss you.
Thank you.
I know that we're gonna have, Mr. Herman back, so you have a good replacement, but we're definitely gonna miss you and your service. How long were you on the committee?
Well, I came and gave these reports from like 2017 on, so, yeah, so it's been, what, 8 years? Again, math. I 17.
Well, happy and joyous time.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
She's downgraded, but she's gonna miss you all.
Yes, I've been really robotic emotionally throughout, most of this last month. But for some reason yesterday, I did my out of office email message and there was no end date. And it's like my whole body went into shock and I couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh, I think I am experiencing some emotional. Anyway.
I can attest to it. She literally went every stage of separation.
I did anger denial.
She realized that it's, you were about 2 months out. She's like, what's gonna happen to my people? She is there. So, we made that dedication to her. She really cared about that.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
She's gonna
Really.
Hey,
eat the show.
we have Kelly.
Sorry.
I'll be quick. Speaking in Dallas. I will be
Kelly,
quick.
will do the Arco Louisiana report on the SPOS program.
Okay, everybody's got it. Hold on, I'm gonna run through really quick. All right, this quarter, we already did last year, we did that one last time, so we're just focusing on the first quarter. So for the first quarter, we served 41 people. I'll give you the demographics of those people. 22 of them were African American, 28 were Caucasian, and 1 was Hispanic. 30 of those people were male, and 21, I'm sorry, that is wrong, Callie. 27 of them were male and 14 were female. The ages of the people served range from ages 33 to 94. Wow. Most of the people that were served were in Region 7 as usual and Region 9. But they kind of go as follows. There were 7 people in Region 1, 2 in Region 4, 4 in Region 3, 2 in Region 4, 4 in Region 5, 2 in Region 6, 9 in Region 7, 0 in Region 8, and 9 in Region 9, of a total of 41 people. On the next page, you'll see that there were all 41 received support coordination. 38 of those people received personal care assistance. 3 of those either received rental assistance or utility. 1 was any type of medical supplies or equipment, and then 2 of those were vehicle or home modifications. So we're expected this year to spend on direct services $888,000. Below that is the breakdown of what those services cost. I won't go through those unless you really want me to read them out to you. On the next page is our waiting list. Currently, we have 89 people on the waiting list. In region 1, there are 22, in region 2, there are 22, in region 3, there are 9 people, region 4, there's 11, region 5, there's 2, region 6, there's 2, region 7, there are 6, region 8, there are 3, and region 9, there are 12. On the next page, you'll have the breakdown of the demographics. 41 of those people are African American, 42 are Caucasian, and 6 are unknown because they did not complete the application. And then there were, of those people, 39 of them were male and 50 were female. So of the total of 89 people. On the very last page is the breakdown of what services they're actually requesting. So if we were to serve all of these people, we would need an additional $2.5 million, which isn't really a whole lot. I want to say in state general funds, I think it's like 700,000 maybe. I don't know. I'm with Tanya with the math. That's not my thing. So the next thing right underneath that was just something that you guys had asked for previously. Want to know if the applicants were receiving any other service, and if so, what service they were receiving, and that's what the breakdown below is. There are 8 people though who are not eligible for any other service besides the spa service. We know that. So, anybody have any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. I know that was quick, but Thank you, took forever, I'm doing.
Right? Maybe goes first, then mine is on the end of the fiscal year report, that's always.
I'm just playing. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see anybody.
$700,000, that's not a lot.
Do what?
Said only $700,000, that's not a lot.
It's really not when you consider, it keeps people in their homes and not nursing homes.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions for Kelly. Please note that after this meeting, our Education and Employment Committee will meet in this room starting at 4:15. Also, tomorrow is the full council meeting, which will start at 10 a.m. It will be in the same room. Those that have registered to participate virtually should have received the links to the meeting in their email. Does anyone on this committee have any other announcements to make? Do you have anyone wishing to share public comment? So I hereby adjourn this meeting late.